What happens when 20 of the world's top doctors fail to save a billionaire? But a quiet housekeeper sees what everyone else missed? This is not just a story of wealth and power. It's a journey through heartbreak, hidden truths, and an unbelievable twist that will leave you speechless. Stay with me till the end, because the most powerful transformation begins where no one's looking. Before we begin this story, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss any of our powerful, life-changing content. If this story resonates with you, please like and share the channel to support our mission. This is more than just storytelling. Every narrative carries a meaningful moral lesson designed to inspire, uplift, and spark personal growth. 20 doctors can't save a billionaire. Then the black housekeeper spots what they missed. I was born in a crumbling two-room house in the backstreets of Birmingham. Rain leaked through the tin roof. Mom worked 2 jobs, and my father disappeared when I was 8. We ate toast with tears, dreamed with empty pockets. I used to press my hands to the frosted glass and promise myself, one day, I will own the buildings people begged to enter. And somehow, that boy with calloused feet and a cracked voice made it. Bit by bit. I hustled through school, sold code I taught myself to write, and built my first startup by 23. I slept on a bean bag. Ate instant noodles until my gums bled. But I never stopped. By 30, I was a name. By 35, I was a billionaire. Private jets, champagne deals, a penthouse that kissed the clouds. But no one tells you. The higher you go, the lonelier it becomes. And then, my body began to break. Chest pains. Fatigue I could not shake. Blurred vision. Confusion. 20 doctors. Every top name in cardiology, neurology, even obscure clinics overseas. All said the same. Your tests are clear. But I knew something was dying inside me. Then came her. Marsha. My housekeeper. 59. Sharp eyes behind tired lashes. She barely spoke, moved like air, quiet and observant. A black woman with stories stitched into her silence. One evening, I collapsed near the kitchen. She did not scream. She knelt beside me, held my wrist, then looked straight into my eyes. "Sir, this ain't your heart or your head," she whispered. "This is your soul begging for truth." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. Instead, I asked, "What truth?" She stood up slowly and said, "The one you buried, with her." And just like that, a door I had sealed shut for 13 years, burst open. I saw her again. Jenna. My first love. The woman who believed in me when all I had was rusted ambition. I left her. For the business. For the dream. For the lie that success requires sacrifice. I buried her memory under money. Under speed. Under noise. But now, my body refused to carry what my heart had denied. Marsha stayed that night. Made ginger tea with cloves. Prayed under her breath. And when I could not sleep, she told me stories. About pain. About losing her only son to the same hunger that once lived in me. I wept. For the first time in 20 years. I wept like the boy I used to be. And then something shifted. The next morning, she sat across from me and said, "You want to live? Then go find her. Make peace. Or die with your fortune clutched in your sorry hands." So I did. I canceled meetings. I silenced my phone. And I went back. Back to the small town where I first learned how to love. And what I found there was not what I expected. Her bookstore was still there. Same red bricks. Same chime on the door. The sign read, "Jenna's Light." I stepped inside. The scent of old pages and lavender hit me like a memory I never wanted to lose. She stood behind the counter, back straight, hair streaked with wisdom, eyes that had once looked into mine like I was worth saving. For a moment, she did not recognize me. But then, her hands froze mid-shelving, and her lips parted ever so slightly. Not in surprise, not in anger, but in quiet, aching recognition. "Hello, Jenna," I said. My voice trembled like a child on stage. She looked at me, long and steady, as if measuring the weight of years between us. "You look tired," she finally said. I nodded. "I am." We sat at the little table near the window, the one where we used to plan our impossible future. I told her everything. About the success, the emptiness, the failing health, the housekeeper who saw through my mask. She listened, not interrupting, not flinching, only holding space for the man I had become. When I finished, I could not lift my eyes, but I felt her hand reach across the table. Soft, warm, grounding. "You broke me," she said gently, "but I healed." Tears slipped down my cheek, not because of guilt, but because I realized she had become whole, while I had become hollow. Then she said something that cracked me open. "Sometimes, the wound is not the end. It is the beginning of remembering who you are." We walked through the town after that. No promises. No pretending. Just two souls revisiting the roads they once walked in love. As we reached the old bridge where I first kissed her, she stopped, looked out over the water. "You think money saves you," she said. "But real wealth? It is found in who stands with you when the world turns its back." At that moment, I realized I had everything, and yet I had missed the one thing that mattered. Not power, not property, not praise, but peace and connection. The wind whispered through the trees. My phone buzzed in my pocket. But for the first time in years, I did not check it, because I was listening. To her. To life. To the parts of me I had buried in boardrooms and bank accounts. And just when I thought the moment had settled, she said something that changed everything. Something that shook the foundation I had rebuilt. She turned toward me, eyes glistening, and said, "There is something I never told you. There is something I never told you." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with a weight she had carried for too long. I held my breath. The wind stilled. The world leaned in. She looked away, down at her hands. Hands that once brushed paint across my bare shoulders in her tiny studio apartment. Hands that now trembled as they unfolded the past. "After you left," she began, "I found out I was pregnant." My knees went weak. The bridge beneath me felt suddenly too narrow. I gripped the railing. Heart pounding. Mouth dry. Pregnant? My mind raced through years of deals and distractions. Blind to what could have been. Blind to what I had left behind. I was scared. She continued. Alone. And I knew you had made your choice. A tear rolled down her cheek. But her voice remained steady. As much as I hated you for leaving, I never wanted to be the chain that pulled you back. I could barely speak. What happened? She gave a small smile. A mix of heartbreak and pride. I had a son. My chest shattered. A son. My son. He is 12 now. She said softly. His name is Elias. Elias. The name rang through me like church bells in a forgotten chapel. I felt years collapse inside me. Business meetings. Private jets. Investments. Luxury. All meaningless in the shadow of what I had missed. A boy. My boy. My voice cracked. Does he know about me? She hesitated, then shook her head. No. Only that his father was a dreamer who disappeared. The truth cut deep. Because it was exactly right. I had vanished. Into ambition. Into ego. Into the illusion of success. I had built empires. But not memories. I had conquered industries. But abandoned my own blood. I turned away. Ashamed. Broken. Humbled beyond words. But then, I felt her hand touch my arm again. Gentle. Forgiving. Solid. You were not ready. She whispered. But maybe you are now. I looked at her. Eyes burning. Can I meet him? She paused. Measured me again. Not the suit. Not the wealth. But the man behind it. And then she nodded. Come by tomorrow. After school. A soft smile played at her lips. He looks just like you when you used to laugh for no reason. My throat tightened. I had forgotten that version of myself. We stood there. Two people haunted by time. Bound by a child. Who never asked for absence. I whispered. Thank you for not hating me. She smiled gently. I did. But healing is a choice. And I chose light. The sun began to dip below the hills. Shadows stretched long across the river. But for the first time in years, I felt warmth return to the coldest parts of me. Tomorrow, I would meet Elias. Tomorrow, I would begin again. Not as a billionaire, but as a father. That night, I did not sleep. I sat in the small motel room outside town. No penthouse. No marble floors. Just a lumpy bed. Dim lamp. And the quiet hum of crickets through a cracked window. My mind was a storm. Elias. My son. 12 years old. 12 years of birthdays I had missed. Of scraped knees I had not kissed. Of fears I had not calmed. Of dreams I had not listened to. I thought of the toys he might have loved. The books Jenna may have read him. The nights she must have held him tight while hiding her own tears. I buried my face in my hands. The guilt was a weight I could no longer ignore. It pressed on my chest. Sharp and unforgiving. But beneath the guilt, there was something else. Hope. A flicker. A fragile, flickering hope. That maybe I had not lost everything. Morning came slow. The sky turned from indigo to amber. And I dressed carefully. Not in a suit. Not in tailored armor. Just a simple blue shirt. And jeans that made me feel human. I stood before Jenna's door at exactly 3:14 p.m. My hand hovered over the knocker. Then dropped. Then rose again. What if he hated me? What if he refused to see me? What if? The door opened before I knocked. Jenna stood there. Hair pulled back. Eyes calm. He is in the back, she said softly. Painting. I stepped inside. The house was warm. Lived in. Smelled of cinnamon and citrus. My eyes scanned the living room. Stacks of books. A drawing of a rocket ship framed on the wall. A soccer ball in the corner. Scuffed with joy. She led me to the back porch. And there he was. Sitting cross-legged. Brush in hand. Canvas before him. Dark curls. Strong jaw. A quiet focus that mirrored mine at his age. He looked up. Eyes the color of polished mahogany. Familiar. Unnervingly so. Elias, Jenna said. This is an old friend of mine. I swallowed hard. Nodded. Hi. He tilted his head. Hi. Silence. but not cold. Just curious. What are you painting? I asked. He turned the canvas toward me. A lighthouse. Standing tall on a cliff. Surrounded by crashing waves. I stared. It is beautiful, I said. He shrugged. I like lighthouses. They are strong. Even when the sea is mad. That line. That simple, perfect line. Struck something deep in my chest. I sat beside him. Carefully. As if approaching something sacred. I used to paint, I said. When I was your age. He glanced at me. Skeptical. But a spark of interest. What did you paint? I smiled. Dreams. Mostly things that did not exist. But maybe could. He nodded slowly. Then held out a clean brush. Try. My fingers trembled. I took it. Dipped it into deep blue. And added a wave beside his. He looked at it. Then at me. That is not bad, he said. My chest tightened. That moment. That single, casual compliment. From my own child. Was worth more than every billion I had ever made. Jenna watched from the doorway. Silent. Still. But smiling. And just as I thought I could not feel more. Elias asked. Will you come back tomorrow? I froze. His voice had no pressure. No expectation. Only hope. I looked at Jenna. She nodded. I turned back to him. If you will have me, I said. I will come back every day. He smiled. The kind of smile that heals something you did not know was broken. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly rich. But just as the light softened, and the moment felt safe, Jenna stepped outside with a letter in her hand. She looked pale. Shaken. And she whispered, You need to see this. It came for Elias yesterday. From the hospital. I stood. Heart skipping. Hospital. She handed me the envelope. Her eyes wet. But steady. I was going to wait. But you deserve to know. There is something. Something we need to face. Together. I opened the envelope. My hands trembling. My throat tightening. And what I read changed everything. I unfolded the paper slowly. Each crease felt like a thunderclap against my skin. The hospital's letterhead at the top. Beneath it, cold black ink. Too formal. Too final. It was a genetic screening report. The kind usually done when doctors suspect something deeper. Something silent. Something hiding in the blood. Elias's name was printed in bold. And below it, a word I could barely breathe. Marker detected for Marfan syndrome. My stomach dropped. A long, awful silence rang between us. Jenna reached out. Placed her hand gently over mine. I took him in after he fainted during gym. She said, voice low. Measured but barely holding together. They ran some tests. The doctors are not sure yet. But they think it could be early signs. I stared at the words again. Marfan syndrome. I had heard of it. A rare connective tissue disorder. It affects the heart, the eyes, the skeleton, and in some cases, it shortens lives. I felt everything in me clench. Like someone had gutted me. Then left my heart beating in the open. How long have you known? My voice was a whisper. 2 days, she said. I did not want to face it alone. I looked up at her. At the woman I had walked away from. Who still stood by our son. Like a lighthouse in a violent storm. And Elias. Still seated. Still painting. Oblivious to the weight in the air. to the fact that his body might be waging a quiet war against him. He glanced up, noticing the silence, the stillness. "Everything okay?" he asked. I forced a smile, one that hurt every muscle in my face. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "We are just figuring some things out." Jenna stepped forward, kneeling beside him. "Hey," she said softly. "Do you remember how we talked about being strong? Like the lighthouse you always paint." He nodded, eyes serious. "Well," she said, "sometimes we learn things about our body. Things that might make life a little harder. But it does not make you any less bright." He stared at her, then at me. "Am I sick?" he asked. I knelt beside him, my knees pressing into the old wooden planks. "We do not know everything yet," I said. "But whatever happens, I am here. And I am not going anywhere." His eyes searched mine, like he was trying to find the truth hiding behind grown-up words. "Promise?" he asked. I swallowed the knot in my throat. "On everything I am," I said. "I promise." He nodded once, then returned to his painting. Silent, but calm. Jenna and I stepped inside, closed the door softly. She broke first, collapsing into the couch, covering her face with both hands. "I cannot do this alone," she said, voice cracking. "I thought I could, but I can't." I sat beside her, placed my hand over hers. "You are not alone anymore," I said. "I lost 13 years. But I will not lose another minute." We sat there, two people bound by love, by mistakes, by a child who now needed more than just our presence. He needed our courage, our unity, our unwavering faith in light, even in the darkest storm. Jenna reached for my hand again, held it tight, and whispered, "Then we fight. Together." But just then, her phone buzzed. She picked it up. Her face went pale. She looked at me, eyes wide. "It is the hospital," she said. "They need us to come in. Now." My heart punched my ribs. "What happened?" She paused, listening, nodding. Then she hung up, looked at me, and said the words that split the air in two. "They found something in his heart. They found something in his heart." The words echoed inside me, sharp, unrelenting. I stood up too fast. The room spun, my palms damp with fear. "What do you mean? What did they find?" Jenna shook her head. "They would not say over the phone. Just that it is urgent. They need us to bring Elias in. Right away." I rushed outside. Elias was still painting, still calm, still free, unaware that behind his ribcage, something might be threatening his future. He looked up, smile wide. "Are we going somewhere?" I knelt beside him, brushed a curl from his forehead. "Yeah," I said gently. "Just a checkup. Nothing to worry about." He stared at me, as if trying to read something deeper. But he trusted me. That blind, beautiful trust children give, when you have not yet let them fall. "Okay," he said, then stood, grabbing his hoodie from the chair. Jenna drove. I sat in the back with Elias. He talked about his painting, his school project, some funny thing his friend said in class. I smiled, nodded, responded, but my mind was in another place. A darker place. What if I had just found him, only to lose him? What if the universe was giving me a second chance, only to take it away again? I stared at him, at his hands, at the way his fingers tapped the rhythm of his thoughts on his knee, at the birthmark behind his left ear.
Same spot as mine. He was mine.
And I had wasted so much time. We arrived at the hospital.
White walls. Bleach and stillness.
That eerie calm that hospitals wear. Right before they steal something from you. The cardiologist greeted us.
Dr. Patel.
A quiet man with kind eyes and an unblinking seriousness. He led us to a consultation room. Asked Elias to wait outside with a nurse. Elias squeezed my hand before letting go.
Will it hurt? He asked. I shook my head. No. Not one bit. You are safe. He smiled. Then walked away.
Dr. Patel closed the door.
Opened a folder. Looked at Jenna. Then at me.
We ran some additional imaging, he said. We suspected signs of aortic root dilation.
I nodded slowly.
Marfan's textbook symptom.
He continued.
But it is more complicated than we thought.
My heart stopped.
Jenna reached for my arm. Dr. Patel turned the scan toward us. Pointed at a shadow near the upper chambers of Elias's heart. There is a small mass. We do not know yet if it is related to Marfan. Or something else.
Jenna gasped.
Covered her mouth. Her whole body leaned into mine. I blinked, trying to process the word. Mass. Not a scar. Not a murmur. A mass. I cleared my throat. What are you saying? Is it dangerous?
Dr. Patel nodded. It could be. We need to operate.
Not immediately.
But very soon.
The next week or two. Jenna's breathing turned shallow. I held her closer. I looked the doctor dead in the eye. Is he strong enough for surgery?
He hesitated. That depends, he said, on how we prepare him.
And how strong his heart really is.
He closed the folder. I will be honest, he added.
There is risk. But waiting longer is a greater risk.
He stood. Gave us space. Told us to take time. But not too much.
When he left the room,
Jenna broke. Her face crumpled.
Her body shaking in silence. I wrapped my arms around her.
Held her tight.
Like I should have years ago. I will not leave this time, I said.
I swear.
We go through this together. She buried her face in my shoulder. Then whispered. I cannot lose him. Neither could I. But just as I stood to go bring Elias back in,
my phone buzzed. A private number.
Reluctantly, I answered. A voice on the other end.
Cold. Corporate.
Mr. Grayson? This is Walter Kane from Argentum Holdings.
We have a situation.
Your board just held an emergency vote. You are being removed as CEO.
The room tilted. What? He continued. Your absence. The stock drop.
They are replacing you. Effective immediately.
My empire. Gone.
In one quiet phone call.
I stood frozen. Then.
I heard Elias's laugh echo down the hall. And in that moment, I realized, maybe this was not loss. Maybe this was grace. A cruel, strange kind of grace. Because the world was no longer asking me who I was. It was showing me who I could become.
I hung up the phone. Slow. Silent.
Like lowering the curtain on a play I no longer believed in. They had taken it all.
The board. The company. The title. But somehow,
I did not feel rage. I did not feel fear.
Only clarity.
The man I once was would have stormed into that boardroom.
Demanded loyalty.
Sued for control. Torn everything down just to prove a point.
But now,
with my son's life hanging in a fragile balance, with the woman I once shattered holding my hand through the storm, none of that mattered. I stepped out into the hallway. Elias sat cross-legged on a waiting bench, swinging his feet, playing a game on a cracked tablet.
He looked up, eyes bright.
"Everything okay?"
I smiled. Genuine. Real. Yes.
"Everything is exactly how it should be."
He tilted his head. "You look different." I laughed.
"I feel different." He stood and slipped his hand into mine. Just like that.
No hesitation.
As if fate was offering me a second chance.
And this time,
I dared to take it. We left the hospital with a date set. Surgery in 9 days. Every moment after that felt holy. We spent mornings walking in the park. Afternoons painting in silence. Evenings reading by candlelight when Elias insisted the lamps were too boring.
And nights? I lay awake,
watching him sleep from the hallway, memorizing the rise and fall of his chest, the small whistle in his breath, the way he hugged his pillow like it held the world.
9 days. It felt like a heartbeat.
On the morning of the surgery, Jenna stood beside me in the hospital elevator.
She wore no makeup.
Her hair pulled back into a simple braid. But she had never looked more beautiful.
More alive.
"I am scared," she whispered.
"So am I," I said.
"But I believe in him. And I believe in us." We were led into the pre-op room. Elias sat on the hospital bed in his sky blue gown. His legs dangled.
He tried to smile.
But I saw the fear in his eyes.
I knelt down,
held his face in my hands. "You are the strongest person I know," I said. "You know why?"
He shook his head.
"Because you make the people around you braver. Just by being you."
He grinned. Shy.
Then leaned in and hugged me.
Tight.
"Will you be there when I wake up?" he asked. I looked him in the eye.
"Always." They wheeled him away. My heart twisted.
Every step he disappeared down that hallway felt like a piece of me being taken with him. Jenna and I sat in the waiting room.
Hours passed. Then more. Coffee grew cold.
The clock hands circled like vultures. Until finally, Dr. Patel appeared.
His scrub streaked. Face tired. But he smiled.
"The surgery was successful," he said.
"No complications. We removed the mass.
Biopsy will take a few days.
But for now, he is stable.
And resting." Jenna broke into tears.
I caught her. Held her. And for the first time in my life,
I cried with relief. Not for the fortune I lost. Not for the empire I built. But for the beating heart that I almost missed out on. We were led into the recovery room. Elias lay small against the white sheets. Machines beeped softly. His lips were dry. His eyelids heavy. But when he saw us,
he smiled. Weak, but real.
"I made it," he whispered. "You did," I said, choking on my words. "You really did." Jenna sat on the other side,
holding his hand,
her thumb stroking his wrist. He drifted back to sleep.
Safe. Jenna looked at me,
eyes full of emotion too deep for language.
"You were there," she said. "I am here," I replied.
"And I am never leaving again."
But before she could respond, her phone buzzed.
She glanced at it,
and her expression changed. Confused. Then concerned. She looked at me. "It is the school," she said slowly.
"They need to speak with both of us. About something Elias wrote in his essay."
I frowned. "What essay?"
She read from the message. We are concerned about a personal story he submitted, involving a man in a black coat, watching him through the window at night.
My heart froze. Jenna.
What is that supposed to mean?
She looked at me. I do not know.
But Elias never makes things up.
And if he wrote that,
then someone has been watching our son. The moment Jenna read the message from the school, the world seemed to tilt again. Had we escaped one storm, only to walk straight into another? A man in a black coat, watching Elias through the window at night. Written in the words of a child who had never lied, who saw the world in brushstrokes and honesty. We met with the school counselor the next day. She handed us Elias's essay. It was titled, "The Man Outside My Window." My hands trembled as I read. He wrote about waking up some nights, feeling like someone was watching. A shadow just beyond the curtain. A tall figure who never moved. Just stood there. Still. And silent. At first, I panicked. The idea that someone might have been stalking him, especially now, shattered every ounce of calm I had built. We checked the security footage from Jenna's home. Every night. Motion sensors. Camera logs. Nothing. No man. No figure. No movement. I sat Elias down that evening. "Buddy," I said softly. "This man you wrote about. Do you still see him?" He shook his head. "No. Only before the surgery." "Do you know who he was?" I asked. Elias looked at me, long and quiet. Then he said, "I think it was just the part of me that was scared. The part that thought maybe I would not wake up." I stared at him. A 12-year-old boy, speaking with the soul of a sage. He continued, "But after the surgery, after you and Mom were there, he never came back." That was the moment it all made sense. The man in the black coat was not real. He was the shadow of abandonment, the fear of death, the loneliness of a child who had felt unseen. And when we showed up, when we stayed, the shadow faded. It was not evil. It was emptiness. And now, it was gone. Months passed. Elias healed. Stronger every day. His checkups turned from urgent to routine. His laughter returned. Bolder, louder, freer. Jenna and I. We rebuilt slowly. No rush. Just moments. Coffee at sunrise. Long drives. Late-night talks about everything and nothing. And one afternoon, on a quiet hill behind the bookstore, I knelt. Not in apology. Not in desperation. But in gratitude. I asked her to walk with me, for the rest of whatever life had planned. She said yes. Not because I had wealth. Not because I had power. But because I had changed. Because I had come back. And stayed. Moral lesson. This story is not just about a billionaire. It is not about money or loss or power. It is about presence. It is about knowing what truly matters. And daring to return to it, even when the world tells you you are too late. It is about listening to the quiet voices around you, and even quieter ones within you. It is about how we all wear coats of shame, of pain, of regret, and only love can help us take them off. No success is worth the price of being absent from the hearts that need you, and no fall is too far to rise again if you have the courage to go back to the beginning. That is what makes us rich. Not what we build, but who we build with. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this heartfelt story. If it touched your heart, please consider sharing it, leaving a comment below, and reminding someone today. You are never alone.